as ever, Pip and I are here. If you haven't been to one of these sessions before, I'm Lou Rogers. I'm senior producer for artist development, and Pip is here too, who's assistant producer. And if you want to chat privately to either of us at any point, just message us privately in the chat. If you need to have a private chat, we can move you out into a breakout room, or if you just want to ask us a private question and you want us to ask your question for you, that's equally fine too. So I don't think I have anything else to say today, and I'm going to hand over. Pip, who's talking first, Louise or Fred?
I don't know, it doesn't matter.
Who would like to go first? Louise, would you like to go first?
Oh, I could, but it was going to be Fred.
Oh,
I was supposed to be, but, yeah.
Fred, well, I'll hand over to Fred and you can introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. So by way of introduction, my name is Fred Hopkins. I'm the head of business development and membership for One Dance UK. So for those of you who aren't aware of who we are, One Dance UK is the official sector support body for dance, unsurprisingly, in the UK. So we have a huge remit that covers pretty much everything from dealing with government on behalf of dancers over weighty issues like Brexit, international free movement, and ensuring that dance studios are recognised in the COVID policies, right the way through to providing continued professional development for dancers, dance teachers, and a whole bunch of other stuff in between. So my job's a bit of a weird one, where I deal with income streams, supporting dancers and supporting the business in general. I'll be quiet now.
So you want me to do just a quick introduction?
Yes, please.
Yeah, morning everybody. My name is Louise Cattarega, and I was once where you are, graduating or studying, and I've had a long and enjoyable portfolio career. So one of those careers that's encompassed everything. And I think we may be treated to a visit from my daughter. I'm going to quickly say hello.
Wait, hold this, please.
You may get a dance. Hold on. Thank you very much, Adeline. Right, this is mummy needs to do this one, so off you go back to daddy. That's it. Thank you. Sorry, that's one of the hazards of lockdown. Adeline, there's lots of people on this. Off you go. That's it. One of the hazards of lockdown. It's easy to just let her do it and then go. As I said, I started off where you did, doing all sorts of dance, and my role at People Dancing now is as associate producer. So that means I'm still part freelance and still at People Dancing 3 days a week, and I deal mostly with making things more equitable at People Dancing, so making things fairer, so making sure that we're reaching majority artists, what we used to call artists of colour, disabled artists, and I work across the organisation. But I also have special responsibility for higher education, so that's where my link is with you. I'm kind of the bridge between where you are now and where you might be, hopefully, when you're my age.
Great, thanks.
So we say, yeah, I'll tell you. I'll just briefly describe People Dancing. People Dancing, we are the professionals who look after the professionals who look after all the non-professionals. So if somebody's teaching in a sports centre or a church hall or teaching a dance class, we're the people who are making sure that that person is teaching you safely. We're the person that's making sure that that person is up to date with their skills. We make sure they have all their legal compliance. And of course, if you want to be one of those people, and I would argue that participatory dance, community dance, it touches every dance life in some way. So you're likely to come across us or come across teaching at some point. We're the people who'll be there for you, and very often at the other end of the phone. But we have a very comprehensive website, which I'll take you through a little part of, the part that's relevant to you, but that's who we are broadly.
Great, thank you. Fred, do you want to hand over to you?
Apologies. finding the mute button seems to be escaping me. Sorry, I'm...
Here's Stephen Duncan Rice, who's just arrived. So I'm just going to let him in.
Fantastic. Well, in that case, I'll hang fire so that Stephen can introduce himself.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear us.
Morning, Stephen.
Good morning. I'm so sorry to have joined you late. I'm having a couple of technical issues, as you might be able to tell by my lack of image. But I'm here now. So sorry to be late.
That's fine. Don't worry. Do you want to just do a quick introduction, just to explain who you
Yeah,
are?
absolutely. Absolutely, Lou. Thank you. My name's Steve Duncan Rice, and I'm an organizer from Equity. I'm a trade union bureaucrat, and it's as great as it sounds. I've worked at Equity for about 16 years, based in and out of the live performance department. I'm currently the Southeast of England official, and that places in my responsibility quite a large number of theatre of dance producers, particularly contemporary dance producers. We work as a trade union. We have 48,000 members, amongst whom are quite a large number of dancers from all disciplines. Dance is one of the most interesting areas that we organise in. It's a very challenging area to organise in as well. Just in terms of its disparate nature, the different types of disciplines, the international nature of the work, the physical nature of the work, and the challenges that presents to people in terms of health and safety, ongoing management of injury, conditions at work, unique conditions which require sometimes unique initiatives by the union. We have a dance committee and a dance network. Historically, we've worked with dancers in all sorts of different areas, including shows like Britain's Got Talent or The X Factor, or it could be ballet company issues. So it's a very diverse union with a very diverse range of dance members, and we are led by what our members deem to be the most important areas that we must focus on. So as a trade union, we are led by members, and it's my duty to sort of enact what they instruct, essentially. So yeah, that's sort of an intro to me, I suppose. Thank you, Lou.
Great, thank you. We'll give you some time to get used to working everything out, and we'll hand over back to Fred.
Cool. Hello again then. Yes, so One Dance UK, as an organisation, we've, just to kind of give you a bit more of an introduction to who we are, what we do, the kind of support that we sort of offer.
Sorry to interrupt, Fred. We're finding it a little bit difficult to hear you. You keep sort of dropping in and out. I don't know whether there's anything you can do about that, but
just give me a sec. Is that any better? Just a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I've got a dodgy microphone on this laptop. So One Dance UK, in essence, we are the sector support body for dance in the UK. In practice, what this means is we work on behalf of our membership and the sector at large, whether they're members or not. Now, I mentioned earlier that we operate on what I term the macro or the micro scale. So at the large end of the spectrum, our advocacy department will talk to our members and the wider dance community, be they organisations, freelancers, individual practitioners, teachers, so on and so forth, to find out what are the issues that are pressing for dancers and dance professionals. We then feed that information back to DCMS. So for those who aren't aware, DCMS is the organ of government that deals with the arts, including dance. And through that, we're able to make sure that dancers' needs and concerns are represented and sort of raised in the corridors of power to try and affect change that benefits our members and the sector. So I very briefly mentioned both COVID and Brexit, because those are the two hugest things that we're dealing with on a regular basis. To give you an example, international dance companies coming into the UK, up until our intervention, were being treated as unskilled labour. So I'm fairly certain if you were to speak to any of the large touring companies, they'd take offence at that. Now, what we did is we worked alongside DCMS to put together a series of documents that outline to government why that is not the case and why there needs to be certain allowances made in the legislation they're bringing in. That then led to a revising of the legislation around international movement. That then all kind of went up in the air a couple of weeks ago, but hey ho, nothing is ever certain. In the era of COVID, obviously, there's a lot of very rapidly changing information that's coming out. Another part of what our advocacy department does is to take that information, look at how it applies to dance, and then disseminate it. So the guidance around ventilation for professional dance companies rehearsing indoors, that was a huge thing a few months ago that we helped to disseminate. And quite frequently, as you might have noticed, information when it comes out of government is impenetrable. It tends to be in very clunky legalese terms. Where we can and where it's safe and okay for us to do so, we'll try and pass that information out in sensible plain English so that it's easy to understand at a glance. Now, those are the big things that our advocacy department does. Other things that we do as well. So as a membership organisation, we provide a range of different services. So at the simplest end, we provide member discounts to different services. So as head of business development and membership, part of my role is to seek out partnerships with organisations who can offer services that people might want. I then arrange better terms than are publicly available. Our members benefit from that. As well as that, I run regular sessions for graduates under our new graduate membership program around the essentials of working as a freelance dance professional. So when I say the essentials, I don't mean the actual practice or stagecraft. I mean things like, what's a UTR? How do you engage with HMRC? How do you formulate a budget that's sensible? That kind of stuff that for me, when I graduated into the arts, took me about 6 months to work out and was just an extra stress that we didn't need. We have a range of different specialist interest directories. So we have our HDP or Healthy Dance Program division. So they exist to provide information and support around ensuring dance practitioners have access to the correct medical knowledge. So this could be articles around mental health, working in isolation, the importance of nutrition, disseminating research or supporting research into different types of training, physical conditioning, that kind of stuff, as well as overseeing our savings plans and a variety of other stuff. Other organs of the organisation look into different specialisations. So we have our DAD division, which is Dance of the African Diaspora, which exists to further the art form of dance. Apologies, my kids have just come in, so you will hear some screaming, which exists to support practitioners of Dance of the African Diaspora by providing networking sessions, biannual conferences, disseminating new updates and training. We've then got our children and young people division, which is a bit of a misnomer because actually most of our members there tend to be teachers, community practitioners. So we work alongside them to provide continued professional development or CPD sessions, new resources, and we also liaise with them and have a different element of advocacy around supporting teachers in making sure that they are free to teach dance in the right ways. So for example, if a dance teacher at any level, be it primary, secondary or tertiary, discovers that their course is under threat, we can lobby on their behalf or attempt to lobby on their behalf to ensure that they are getting the correct representation and support in keeping dance available, because if it disappears from schools, then it becomes very difficult to try and push that through. And then beyond that, we offer sort of generic membership services. So we have a range of publications. We have a lot of organizations on our books. So dance companies, a couple of venues, as well as the freelancers. So we can part of our mission statement is to provide a networking platform where people can talk to each other. They can make new connections. We have a choreographers directory that exists purely to promote the individuals on it. So if choreography is something that you're thinking of getting into and you want to really promote your art form, that's one way that we can assist. And we can also advertise people's upcoming workshops and things throughout our membership circles and beyond. And then on top of that, we run an annual dance awards that celebrates all of the contributions made across the dance sector. So you don't have to be a performer to be nominated. And that could be anything from dance science to community dance to educating to performance to choreography and on and on and on and on, as well as running some other quite large national events. So earlier on when I said that we have a fairly huge remit and we cover a lot of different bases, that's the kind of thing I was talking about. So I'll probably stop ranting at everybody there and open up to see if there's any questions.
You got very quiet then, so I'll just reiterate that I think Fred said if anybody has any questions. There'll be more time for questions at the end as well, and if you think of questions as people are talking, please do pop them in the chat and we can share them afterwards. Okay, then I'm going to hand over to Louise. Thank you, Fred.
Okay, right, hi everybody. I'm going to start try and screen share to tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about the organisation and where the two meet. So let's see if we can everybody see that? I don't know if you need to do thumbs up. Yes, okay, lovely. So that's me. I'm Louise Cattarega. I still would describe myself as an independent dance artist, and I've put an interdependent dance artist because I think this is what you're beginning to learn about today, is that lots of parts of the dance organisations are joined up with each other. Like, for example, it's not the first time Fred and I have met, because we've been talked about working together to support people like you. And lots of people talk about being freelance or being in the dance world as being quite isolating. It sometimes is. Sometimes you're the only teacher, or you're a performer and you work with a group for a while and then you move on. The whole point of joining these organisations is about feeling part of a community and having somewhere to go to. Exactly like Fred's just been saying, when you're in trouble, when we're all in trouble as an industry, it's One Dance UK and organisations like People Dancing. We also speak to DCMS. We're the ones who were at the high tables of government talking for you, but also the idea of joining us, being a member, is part of it. Means that you're never quite always on your own. You're always part of this wide community, and you might be the only teacher in your area. But through organisations like all of the ones we're talking about today, you end up joined up with all the other dancers. So when I say interdependent, I mean dependent on other dance artists, but also all of these organisations. I'm a Ugandan and English heritage. I live here in the Midlands, which is great to live in the middle of everything. I can kind of a day's journey from lots of places. And I've been working for more than 25 years in dance as some of things in these bubbles, which you might identify with. So it doesn't actually quite go in this order. But I have been a performer, independent choreographer in small companies, and where the dance organisation has come in there has usually been in the form of, even if you only perform, I can guarantee you that at some point in your dance life, you will be asked to lead a workshop. And that's where the community and participatory dance skills come in. So your company might train you. So they might have come through People Dancing, who support company to train you, or you might have trained with us in some of our continuing professional development classes and courses that we've been talking about, or making sure that all of that's legal. I have been a teacher, and that has been the financial basis for everything that I've done. You will find as you get out into the world that, unfortunately, rightly or wrongly, teaching can often pay more than performing. So your teaching career very often supports your performing work. And certainly as you get perhaps running a company, it becomes part of your communication with your audience. It becomes almost your publicity work. And I think that picture of me there shows the range of people I work with. I've worked a lot with disabled people, as has Lou, and I have worked with pretty much every age from 3 to 93, but I would describe myself very much as a generalist rather than a specialist. And again, a bit like you, as you're starting out, I tried everything for the first 4 or 5 years of my career and was very grateful to be able to dip into this professional development that we're talking about, dip into classes and courses. And I gradually began to specialize more and more in working with disabled people. So you may find that as you go on, you're able to develop a specialism. And there were no classes and courses. Lou will remember the days of just kind of, trying it out. But people dancing in particular has a very strong reputation around working with disabled people. I have been a choreographer and a company lead. So you'll see where this participatory dance practice led me to. I'm sure all of you will have heard of Canduco Dance Company. I began my training, as many people did, about 20 years ago with them. And where disabled people were dancing was in participatory dance, in community dance. There were barely any professional disabled dancers back then. So it's one of those things about never think that participatory dance might not be a through route to professional dance, because as things developed by 2006, for example, my company and I, there were 9 of us, disabled, non-disabled, a real range of ages, age 26 up to early 60s, and we found ourselves as a company and part of the Place Prize. And the time went on, I began to be asked for my advice, or instead of being a pupil on the CPD, on the continuing professional development classes and courses, I actually became one of the teachers on it. So as my career developed, I again became not just a recipient of what organisations like the ones we're talking about give. I became a contributor. I became somebody that they knew, somebody that they hired for these specialist skills that I developed thanks to their support. I also am a board member and a trustee. So again, that expertise was called upon by other companies. And a trustee's role is, it's a role you usually need to be an advisor, a critical friend to a company, and you might meet with them, with a group of others, maybe 4 times a year. In COVID times, those of us on boards, it's been, but you support and advise. I advise in my specialism, disabled people, and lately, since 2016, the next era of my career began again with people dancing around to the African diaspora, as we've just been talking about, beginning to look at people who look like me within dance. No one had ever really looked at the contribution of Black women to participatory dance. So I did some research, I did some professional development. I began to work a lot more closely with people dancing as an organisation. So I understood I understand a bit more now about the nuts and bolts of how it works day to day on a much larger scale than I had been as an individual. But because I still work as an individual, I'm still able to, as we were talking about before, bring that information from the shop floor. That information from the shop floor is very, very important to dance. As we've known through Corona, it can change very quickly. About 10 years ago, I became a wife and mother. So again, my community, my participatory practice, because I was much more rooted in one place geographically, that became more and more important. And now I began to ask what next, and I've become more of a strategic, more of an activist, which sort of brings me here to you today to talk about people dancing. So when I'm talking about us officially, we are the Foundation for Community Dance. So with the development organisation and membership body, it's like it's a club that you join. And as you've hopefully seen through my career, it's something that you can join as a student and carry on to, like me, into your 50s. And we're there for you in different ways all the way through. And we're for anybody involved in creating opportunities for people to experience and participate in dance. So that's across all genres. It doesn't matter whether you're doing Bharatanatyam, African dance, hip hop. Very often the needs of anybody that's teaching in the community, they're all the same. What do you need legally? How do you work safely? What's the latest practice? What do you need to know? And particularly in COVID, lots of it is to do with keeping yourself safe and keeping others safe. We have a reach of more than 4,500 dance professionals worldwide. So that's through our website. And I definitely encourage you to go have a look at our website. Lou, I don't know if you could put the whole website in the chat. It's pretty comprehensive.
I put it in the chat.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. And it's pretty comprehensive. And I'll take you through just in a moment, just take you through the bits of it that you'll be most interested in. But I would encourage you to have a really good look around. And that does reach worldwide. We have about 2,500 members. So 2,500 people who are in our club. But we reach, again, like the other organisations have been saying, we're associated with a lot of other organisations. Often our events aren't just open to members, although it's often cheaper if you're a member, but they're open to others as well. So all sorts of people engage with us, from organisations as large as English National Ballet to somebody working online in a rural area, delivering very specialist dance for Parkinson's. It's all about a set of values that join us, and generally about working with people, working safely, working to encourage people to dance, whatever type of person you are, whatever type of body or mind that you have. Again, I'll go into that a little bit further when I show you the webpage. But broadly, we're a platform for exchange, so that we have communications where we exchange information as well. We have an online magazine. We have plenty of blogs and voices. Again, over lockdown, you'll see me on quite a few interviews with artists. We're moving more and more online. There's a lot of talk and chat that you can access. Again, you know, a lot of sort of personal stories of artists and how they've traveled through their career or traveled through Corona particularly. And for peer learning. And peer learning means exactly what we're doing here, learning from each other and sharing. There are 4 strands of work. Developing participation, so getting people to join in. And that can go from things as massive as huge participatory events during the 2012 Olympics. I definitely encourage you to Google something called Big Dance, which was I don't know if any of you might have even been involved in the Big Dance Pledge, where lots of people around the country learned a version of a dance by Akram Khan and performed it all at the same time on the same day. We can be involved in things as big as that, or exactly the route that I've come through. We're dancing with the ones there 20 years ago, talking to disabled people about how they wanted to come into dance through the participation, but eventually now at the stage where we're at, where we've got disabled leaders, disabled companies who are working purely in the artistic way. Developing practice, so that means making sure that everybody can get better in the ways that they want to get better, and making sure the whole thing's getting better at the cutting edge. And I would like to think that my equity role is part of that developing practice. My role existed before everything that happened with Black Lives Matter this summer, but I think that it's certainly been, the conversations I've been able to have been enhanced by all of that happening. And we're opening the practice to more and more people, making sure that everybody in every culture is represented. And then our membership services, which I will go back to because we're going to look at a web page for that. And then communications, which I've just spoken about, blogs, podcasts, Anybody is invited to vlog or blog. Students and people at your stage of the game have absolutely spoken to us, blogged and vlogged for us, because again, a bit like the other organisations, we're interested in that view from the floor, but also people like me with 25 years plus practice can also blog or vlog. And all of those things there's a fee for all of those at the moment. So if you're interested in blogging or vlogging for us, or pointing us at someone who does, feel free to get in touch. And that's the website there. So I'm going to stop sharing that and see if I can share our individual membership page. Oops, hold on, I have to go. So I need to go back and share screen. Okay. So we have 4 types of membership, so 4 different ways of joining the club. Professional individuals, so that's probably where you'll go when you've graduated. Students, which you might want to look at now. Associate individual membership, so that simply means if you've already got your public liability insurance, you can get all of the rest of the things we offer at a cheaper price. And international membership, so that might be from anybody who's not in the UK. So if those of you who have contacts abroad, where community and participatory dance, it's thought of in lots of different ways in lots of different countries, but it's something we lead on here in the UK. We have one of the most comprehensive sets of advice and infrastructure for it. So if you have contacts in other countries, it is worth pointing them at us. And your student membership is a bit like the associate membership. You get just a smaller package versus the professional individual membership. But the student membership, for those of you students, that's £18 for 3 years. So well worth joining this network, this club, because that can see you through your entire university career, and you have access to resources, access to the communication, the vlogs and the blogs. But let's take a look at the professional individual membership. This is the, will it let me? Yeah, everybody see that? This is the full package, and all of the other packages are just versions of this. So anybody who's working within teaching, why join? You get many, many things, not just the insurance that lets you work. So you get the insurance that says it's okay for you to work with, to hold a class. It says that you can hold that safely. You get insurance that covers some of the other people who work with you. If anything was to happen, God forbid somebody hurt themselves in your class, and God forbid you were sued, you are covered up to £10 million for that. You have access to a legal helpline. And then if you hurt yourself, which is something different, you'll have access to personal accident insurance, which is a different thing. Now, if any of that happens, there's lots and lots of documents to read through, but most of the time people just simply pick up the phone to us. We have people who are dedicated to membership, and it's very often quickest if anything happens to you to just pick up the phone. There's a little bit of cover for Pilates teaching, which many dancers seem to do alongside their careers. You're not, for example, covered for yoga or aerobics and things where they have other qualifications, and there's a little list you can click on to see what that is. Equipment cover. Nearly all of us are moving from place to place if we're teaching with iPads, iPhones, speakers, etc., increasingly computers. And all of our cover now has been updated to talk about what you need for COVID. And as I say, public liability. The other important thing that people will often get from us is their DBS check, their disclosure and barring services check. That means the thing that says it's okay for you to work with children and vulnerable people. So that might include elders, people who are less cognitively able, people who are less able to understand. So on our DBS, you can get just the DBS, that's £48. But you can get the DBS, all of the public liability, all of the other benefits for only £82. You can pay for that monthly, you can pay for it all at once. And at the moment, because of coronavirus, you can commit to a certain number of months, and then you can get a discount if by any chance you lost your work through anything that happened with coronavirus. You can opt out again. So it's very, very flexible and very, very broad what you get. I think I've covered it all really. Reduced fees for courses and events. And I think perhaps the last thing I might show you is the courses and events that you might be interested in right now. So we have, if I can, let me see if I can screen. Oh, am I still screen sharing? We have our latest one is called Perspectives on Practice. Are you able to see that? Lou, I can only see you. Can you see that? No, okay. I think I just simply need to. There we go. Yes. Sorry, Lou, can you give me that? Lovely. So Perspectives on Practice. So this, I think this is a really great representation of kind of everything People Dancing's ever done and everything it's doing now in coronavirus. All of our events are online, and again, a bit like other organisations are saying, everything that's up to date. So here are some examples. So this is our 11 million reasons to dance. It's 11 million reasons. There are 11 million disabled people as far as we know about in the UK. So that's why our disabled network is that. Now, if you think you might be isolated as a dance teacher or doing dance, try working in dance involving disabled people. That can be very isolating. So we have a network for that. So that's simply a space to meet online and hear about the latest practice. Something useful that I probably could have done with this morning because I'm recovering from a cold, how to use your voice whilst teaching. So very practical things. One of our very specialist areas, dance involving people with Parkinson's disease. Making outdoor participatory performance. This is this participatory work on a grand scale. We know that there's probably going to be a summer of dance coming up where we're very much outside. So Jean Charles, she's the world record holder for the largest outdoor dance in Trafalgar Square. I think it was about 2009 or so, but she will be talking about, and it's a whole area of practice growing and growing right now under Corona. Some specialist early years work and specialists on just community practice in general. So I think that's something well worth clicking on. Just as a starting place with People Dancing, as well as the membership pages. I think that's all I want to say, apart from a couple of things that we're not. We're not a grant giving body. Quite often people come to us because we are regularly funded by Art Council and think that we might be able to sponsor you or give you money. Not really. We're much better at people to come to say, where do I find those resources? Where do I find those people? And we're not a dissertation service. Quite often, many of you may have a community dance strand on your course, or you're wanting to get into community dance. It's saying, oh, I'm studying, can you give me information about? Well, again, if you take a look around the website, it's a vast, vast world. But if you've done some research and you can really hone down what it is you're interested in. For example, you might say, I'm really interested in outdoor participatory practice. Where do I go? That's a legitimate reason to get in touch with us, and we will say, oh, well, we can point you at Jean and her work, for example. So if you are getting in touch with us, a practitioner who's starting out, really have a good look around the website first, or come to us with a very, very specific inquiry. And that's the way that we're best able to help you, because we're quite a small team. I'm going to send a document to Lou after this with all the links of all the interesting things that the place that will navigate you as a new practitioner around the website, because as I said, it is pretty vast. It's also changing at the end of April. But I hope that hearing my own story and how I've kept connecting all the way through, you know, helps you be enticed to joining what, you know, at least one of us, because it does stop you from being isolated, and it is something that's always there. People that are older and wiser, people that are a few steps ahead, people that can point you in the right direction all the way through. And I'll also include, I did a blog about teaching. If you're starting out at teaching, I'll include that in the resources as well. Okay, thanks very much.
Great, thanks, Louise. That's really useful. I might have missed it. I know that you said how much the cost was for student membership. Did you say how much the cost was for individual professional?
Yes, it's 82.
Okay, great.
82. Well, it starts at 82, and then if you join after June, it's 72, and then if you join after, because it's like a rolling membership of over the year, so if you joined a bit later on, you could get 9 months membership or 6 months membership, but it's 82, 72, 62, with the possibility of refunds along the way and the option to pay by direct debit.
Great, thank you. I'll just put it out. If anybody has a question now, specifically for Louise, that they're dying to ask now, please do. Otherwise, we'll come back to questions. Rose, have you got a hand? No, there was a little hand thing on yours, Rose, but I don't know if you, maybe that.
No, sorry, don't know.
That's all right. Great, thank you, Louise. That was brilliant. And Steve, if I can call on you, please.
Hello, hi.
Hi.
Yes, of course. Do you have a specific question, or would you like me just to sort of add some more sort of background to how equity works and why it's relevant to dance, etc.?
That would be great. Yes, please. If you could tell everyone a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, it was interesting, this, Louise, because there is definitely overlap in terms of the services that equity provides. But I think one of the core things about equity is it's what it is, and it's a trades union, which gives it sort of a unique role within the industry and within the UK economy, in that we are there to represent the interests of workers in this context, dance. So it is a voice for dancers collectively, and one that has protections and status under UK legislation. It means that the union is able to embark on collective bargaining. So we speak to producers and employers about establishing minimum terms and conditions of employment in places that you work. In the dance sector, there are places that will recognise equity, and there'll be equity recognition, and you'll get an equity contract. You know, if you work in film or TV, or you know, some of the ballet companies, some of the big major ballet companies, and some of the dance companies that might be part of the ITC, the Independent Theatre Council. But there is also a realm of the industry which is not does not officially recognise the union, and therefore there aren't collective minimum terms and conditions in place. But there is employment law, and in the past, our dance committee, and I've included a link in the chat for the dance committee so you can see who's on there at the moment, and there's some links there to some of the work that they've done. We've worked on things like the Fit to Dance Space Charter, which is about trying to improve the environment in which dancers rehearse and train, trying to improve standards where possible, but also issues about holiday pay and national minimum wage, and things that are tied into how you are categorized as a worker under law. And it's a very interesting area. Different members have different views on it, and different artists have different views on it. Are you an artist? Are you a craftsperson? Are you a worker? Are you a business person? And very often it's a blend of all these things. And there are some real challenges, I think, because what you do, I think you do primarily because you love it and you want to create art, but you are also there to earn a living and be a professional, and in order to sustain a professional career, it is important to receive pay for the work that you do and recognition in that way, in order to ensure that everyone has access to this industry. So we have a lot of work to do within that, because I think particularly on the fringes of the industry, it's very easy to find yourself being exploited in different ways. So what equity is there for is to provide you with a resource, a tool, a means by which you can increase your power in the workplace, your influence, where you can sort of assert your rights. You don't necessarily have to do it in a confrontational way. It might merely be that you want to find out what your rights are, so you pick up the call, phone us, and it's confidential, and we'll just give you some guidance, and you take it from there. Just because you may not be working on a union contract, or there might not be recognition of equity within the workspace that you're in, that doesn't mean you can't get help from us. I think that's very important to understand. The only thing that bars us being able to help you is, are you a member? That's really the key thing. We do have a student membership scheme as well, and we have a graduate membership scheme, full membership scheme. You do in many cases need to demonstrate some evidence of paid professional work in order to join. There's a threshold of £500, but if you're currently studying and you're on a course, then you can go for a different pathway in student membership and then on graduate membership. The benefits of membership, very much as Louise described, actually, there is definitely overlap in that we provide public liability insurance and you get personal injury sort of cover as well. And I think those are very meaningful and tangible things for dancers. Of course they are. We also provide legal support. If there's a breach of contract situation, we're able to represent you. So if someone withdraws an offer of work and doesn't provide you with an alternative means of, doesn't allow you to mitigate your loss, you can come to us. If someone doesn't pay you when they should be paying you, that's something that we can help you with as well. If you're in a situation where bullying and harassment is taking place, where you're being made to feel vulnerable, or things are happening which you are really worried about, health and safety wise, or in connection to broader issues, then again, we are there as a resource for you to draw upon. Very often equity is seen as a flip side to the coin of employers. We're often seen as one of the instruments of oppression, I suppose, in the industry in a way. I think we're sometimes seen as part of that structure, but really what we should be and what we strive to be and what we aim to be is you. So if you're a dancer, you should be equity, and equity should be that collective. It's the workers themselves that should drive it and should drive what it does. And we've got a really good dance committee. They've been very proactive, and they've sort of led us by the nose, as bureaucrats, into what are the key priorities. And it's why, I mean, if the dance committee were really driving factor between why we took on the issue of holiday pay, for example, in the live performance sector. It's a big issue, and it's tied into categorization of work, and it's complicated for dancers. It's complicated because you might be choreographers, you might be genuinely self-employed, and you might not have a legal entitlement to some things, but then other times you really do, and you could be missing out on certain things. So it's not straightforward pathway, and it's complicated, and it can be shades of grey. So it's very often, we are there to sort of provide you with a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of help, but also you might be experiencing something or seeing something happening which you think the union is not tackling or it's falling short of, and that's why we really want you to be engaged with it. We want you to make the union better through your participation, and we also want you to leave the industry in a better place than what you found it. I suppose by the end of your careers you can retire, you can sit back if you ever retire. I know dancers, there is more of maybe a physical shelf life, but then again it depends on the type of dance, it depends what you're doing, and actually the barriers are broken down all the time. So I don't want to be definitive in that. But I'd like to think that you will contribute something to the industry, and you'll give strength to those who are in your shoes, and those that will follow on from you, as those that have preceded you have done. Because we know that the industry is not perfect. We know there's a lot of adversity. And just to conclude, I think in my experience, dancers probably tolerate the most hardship out of any of the disciplines we cover. I think dancers will put up with much more abuse, verbal and physical, than pretty much any other discipline we cover. I think it's to do with the training. I think it's to do with the sheer adversity of moving forward in this industry. So it is things that we need to challenge at times. There are times when you have to have a line, but you'll develop that as you progress as a professional. But I think when you first graduate, you're probably at your most vulnerable, and that's why forums such as this are really important. And sorry I can't get my camera to work. I hate being this voice in the wilderness, but I hope that is helpful. And I will, further to this, I'll send the team just like an email with more with links and a bit more information. So if you wish to share that with those who are in attendance, and then that would be awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. That was great. Katie, I will come to your question in the chat in a minute. I just one question, Steve. I'm not sure whether you mentioned it and I didn't hear it. It's just costs, how much it would cost people to join.
Sure. The student membership scheme, if you're still in training, it's £20 a year. The current subscription rate for a full member who is £11.83 per month. I'll put a link to our subs page. It's on the website, but I'll provide a link in the chat in a second so you can see that. Of course, it is a tax allowable expense. I saw the question from Katie in chat. Do you want me to talk about? I mean, I think in a way, just to refer to what I said earlier, that equity sort of has a unique function in that we're not a professional association. We're not a trades body as such. We are a union. So that means that we are able to collectively bargain. So if you want to sort of try and organize a workplace, try and get a producer to recognize the union and get them to issue terms and conditions, get them to recognize what you deem to be a priority, then we are able to do that. We're able to represent you in workplace issues as well. So say, for example, an employer wants to try and get rid of you, we are able to have a presence in the workplace. We have a legal role, a legal obligation that we fulfill. And also, because as a trade union, we're part of the TUC, but we also have the ability to lobby Parliament as well and have a role within those structures. Because we have 48,000 members, not all of them are dancers, of course, but there is a common collective self-interest, I suppose you might describe it, within trade union. And for those 48,000 members, it gives us some lobbying power, particularly because equity sort of probably punches above its weight in some ways, because we have a lot of high-profile members and we have many years of being sort of this institution, I suppose, in a way. So it does give us leverage. And by lending your support to the union, we only get stronger, really. So yeah, but there is definitely overlap between many organizations, and you do have, I mean, when it comes to the services that are offered, that there is definitely overlap and things that and I think, if you have the resources and then be a part of as many of these as possible, because obviously equity is not necessarily about, we're not necessarily there to help you find work, we're there to protect you when you're in work. We're not necessarily about, although we have networks of professionals that engage, and it is a great way to develop activism and engagement in trying to improve the industry in all sorts of different ways. It might not necessarily be, from a networking perspective. I think there are other places, other things that might provide that in a better way, I suppose, because I don't want to be, I'm not going to just rah equity. I think there are many other wonderful organizations out there, particularly dance. There's a whole sort of architecture, a whole geography of resources available for dancers, like the Dancers Career Development Fund, for example, and all these wonderful sort of organizations, some of whom are here now, that are there to support you. And I think it's really important that you figure out what's going to work for you and work through that, because I think you're in a really good position in a way, even though it's a really tough industry to access. There are some great resources for you. You just need to know where to find them. And obviously being here today gives you an advantage, I think. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll just read Katie's question out in case people haven't seen it in the chat. So Katie's question was a more general question. Is there a reason to join one of these unions / support bodies rather than the other? would it be advised to join all of them? Louise or Fred, do you want to come in as well on that? Fred, yes, thank you. And then we'll go to you, Louise. Great.
So this, for me, if in your shoes as, you know, a dance professional, if you can afford to join all three, then yes, do. Although there is some overlap in some of what we do. So for example, People Dancing provide insurance. We also provide insurance. That's a clear overlap. We also have quite distinct functions, and our focuses are frequently in different areas. But financially, you may not be able to afford to join all three at the same time. I mean, comparatively, One Dance UK's membership rates are quite low. So I think it's £20 for a student membership per year, or £35 as a freelancer. But if you want to join any of our specialist directories, then there's an uplift for that as well. So if you were to add all three up over the course of every year that you join, that's quite a significant cost. That's not to say that you shouldn't do it, though. I think the sensible thing to do would be to look at what your needs are at any given moment and determine, is this something that in the next 6 months to a year, I think that People Dancing or Equity or One Dance are going to be in a position to help me with directly, and then make a decision off of that. And as someone in business development and membership, and you know, it's literally part of my job description to grow our membership, I kind of feel on the one hand like I'm chopping off my own foot, but for you as a practitioner, you need to look at what your needs are, work out what you can afford to do, and then marry that up to who's best positioned to provide the answer to that needs. And it might be that throughout the course of your career, you have a membership, say with One Dance for a couple of years, and then it lapses because for whatever reason you're in a position where you don't need our support, or you know, your career takes you in a different direction, and then you might pick it up again in a couple of years. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's just a case of be very realistic and clear with yourself. What is it you're expecting to get? And, you know, can you afford to do it? Because certainly, you know, it's part of One Dance's charter that we want dancers to have better, healthier, more financially robust careers. So we wouldn't want you to feel like, you know, I'm twisting your arm into buying a membership if you physically can't afford it. That flies in the face of everything that we're set up to do. Equally, if it is something that you think would really help you, then absolutely investigate it. And if you're unsure, certainly for my team, just drop us an email. We'll always give you the time of day to kind of answer any questions that we've got. Everyone's websites have got FAQ sections which deal with the broad strokes of what we do and how it might impact you and your activities. So do a little bit of research and have a little think. So that was a very long way of saying, if you can afford it, yes. If not, have a look at your balance and then decide what matches your needs best. And I'll be quiet again now.
Great, thank you,
Yeah,
Fred. Louise. Oh, sorry.
And I would just echo that. I was a member, I am a member of more than one, because I find that overlap useful. And it is about what you're doing at that point in your career. And as all of the membership packages of these, they're all pretty comprehensive. So it might make absolute sense to you to get your public liability from one source, but get a smaller membership package with someone else, depending on what you're doing. My sense of people out there is that people who perform a lot for very large companies, like if you're on a cruise ship, if you're in the West End, if you're working in Panto, that's where you really need equity. Because if anything was to happen to you on that large scale, you heard them, 48,000 people would be behind you making your argument about keeping you safe at work. That's the need there. For someone like One Dance UK, I remember that in my early years as the place that I really kept in touch with what was going on with choreographers, choreography right at the high end of the profession, you know, kind of who was out there, and a very good way of keeping my finger on the pulse. And People Dancing, like I've been saying, is for those down to earth day-to-day moments, whether and it's how the three, you can make the three work for you together. For example, People Dancing, quite often, as when you're working as a dance teacher, they'll say, where are your qualifications? And if you don't have ISTD or RAD or something like that, that's where you would say, well, I belong to this professional organization. And teachers, for example, would recognize that because they're in that as well. In people dancing, we have a professional code of conduct that you sign up to that says something about how you will work and why. So that would explain to, say, somebody, when you're teaching in an after-school club or in a community dance, why you're charging so much per hour, and not the same as somebody who's just done a sports qualification. But to really, really enforce that, you need your equity, and you also need your One Dance UK fighting for you at government level as well. So there's a reason to be involved with all of them. So, like, you know, I would use my people dancing stuff to say, this is why I'm qualified. But it was really important for me to be part of those other people fighting the fight at the other end to say, and this is why dance is valuable. And yes, these people really are qualified. It's like having 2 or 3 people in your corner. So absolutely, if you can afford to join more than one, join more than one. But yeah, have a little look around and base it on what you're doing at the moment, so that you're spending your money, you know, the most wisely for you.
Great, thank you. There's another question from Yeva. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? This is perhaps not a question related to young dance artists, but is there any support for dancers who are returning to their career after raising family? Fred, I'd like to go first. Thank you.
Yes, so this is one of the things that we do. If we at One Dance UK aren't actively doing something, we can always point you in the direction of whoever is. So there's a number of different organisations who are actively trying to support parents returning from family career breaks. PIPA is one, so parents in the performing arts. They've got a range of resources. They work with a lot of different organisations. One Dance UK is one of their sponsor organisations. Specifically for dance artists, I'd strongly suggest have a look at Dance Mama. So their work is less about finding you jobs, but very much around the research of how do you physically recondition, having been particularly being a mother, because obviously there's a lot of physical impact to that. And then we ourselves at One Dance UK, we do everything that we can to run networking events, as I know that People Dancing do as well, aimed at supporting people in growing their networks. Because one of the things that certainly our members have said is after parenting career breaks, they can sometimes feel quite isolated. There's a bit of anecdotal evidence, you know, there's increasing numbers of skills workshops that are aimed specifically at parents returning to the arts and dance, which are child friendly, or in pre-COVID times they were anyway, which are frequently done with some element of daycare alongside. Those could be a really, really good way of getting back in, because it's quite often the networking side of things, of feeling like you're connected to the rest of your sector, that people feel is missing. So yeah, there's a lot of different articles on that. To be honest with you, parenting in dance is something that we touch on fairly regularly in our members magazine. So we put out articles on it, if not every issue, then certainly annually. And at the moment, Dance Mama are running a series of workshops that are digital around being a parent in the performing arts. So those would be my 2 signposts for that. I appreciate that's not necessarily the answer that you were looking for, but hopefully it helps.
Louise.
I did that journey, and and Dance Mama are 2 things that are on my radar. I think Dance Mama has been doing some mentoring at the moment, mentoring women, directly mentoring other women. And the thing that I most needed was a bit of a stock take of what skills I had, a bit of a stock take of what time I now had, and also a bit of a stock take about what I was now motivated to do. Because I found that having children, it sort of really, it can shift your values or what you're interested in, or what you've a lot of time thinking about. And have you all had something, or are you having something on this from Dancers Career Development? Lou, are you having?
No, we haven't. We go to Pippa stuff, and yeah, we've got a meeting coming up with Dance Mama. We
Yeah.
haven't, but that is definitely something we could do.
Yeah, because that was where I started with dancers career development. They're sort of in some ways the best kept secret in the industry, and I know that all the organisations here have something to do with them. Dancers career development exists to support dancers at any stage of their career. So you can get funding to say you've always wanted to teach Pilates, you can get funding for a course to help you to do that, or to train in another industry. They're also absolutely brilliant advocates for that dance career that you had. Even if you wanted to change to doing something else like working in an office, articulating why you have loads of fabulous skills from dance, like working in a team, being a good communicator, adapting very quickly, etc., etc. Because a lot of it I found, I don't know if this is you, Yev, was about getting, where am I at and how do I get my confidence back? And all of these spaces, they're spaces to talk about that. So Dance Mama would be with other mothers. Mothers Who Make is another organisation. There's a Facebook group, but also I think in Southeast, that's a place you can go, and you're actively encouraged to bring your babies, your children, so that you can be both a mother and a creator in the same space. So everybody's breastfeeding, everybody's looking after the children, and everybody's talking about their fantastic painting or choreography that they're doing. They're two great spaces. But DCD is where I'd start, and they do very cheap coaching, one-to-one, some coaching. I think it often starts with conversations. So I would have a little think about your parameters. Where's my confidence at? Or, you know, kind of what do I want to do? How much time have I got? And have a chat with some of these mothers in some of these spaces that have done it before. It took longer than I thought it would take, but it was a more interesting journey too. And you will find that none of your old friends have forgotten you, and none of your creative skills have died, if that's any help.
That's great, thank you. Steve, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I'd say, you know, Equities work quite a bit with Pippa, who've been brilliant. And yeah, we sort of helped to fund them as well. And I think from our viewpoint, when it comes to people returning to work following having children, it's, yeah, we're obviously concerned about discrimination taking place in the workplace. I mean, that's where we're sort of coming from, and from an equalities perspective, particularly, and also in the context of COVID as well. And I think the research that Pippa did, they did some research that was published on the 28th of January. It's on their website. I would definitely point everyone to have a look at that and have a read of that, and the implications of some of the things that we're seeing at the moment, how it's going to affect parents. Before COVID, we were seeing some really great stuff happening in live performance. There was some big steps being taken forward in the commercial sector regarding things such as job shares in West End shows, you know, the ability to be able to be more flexible in the way that work is structured to enable performers to spend time with their children, and sort of function as a family, even on tour, you know, those sorts of things. I think there's we're all very concerned at Equity that what we might see in the post-COVID landscape will be a retraction, big stepping back away from this. And certainly we've seen discriminations over maternity issues arising, not strictly in, I've seen that happen in workshop scenarios before, and as a trade union, we're not always able to help our members in teaching situations because it's other unions' domains. We do try our best to help, and that's been my experience of those kind of issues in the last few months. They haven't been that pleasant, I suppose. So there is adversity out there, I think, and we're worried that there'll be a reversal of attitudes from some employers in regards to how they view parenting, how they view maternity and paternity, and all that goes with that. So I think there's a lot of work for us to be doing, to be vigilant, and to ensure that the advances that have been made in recent years are not rolled back as a consequence of the pandemic. Yeah, so I don't think I have much more. I can add that. Other than what occurred to me, I didn't mention, and I don't know if you've mentioned previously, because obviously I was late joining, but it's a great charity sort of organisation called BAPAM. I don't know if that's come up. I think I've got the link here. Let me just see if I can put it in chat. Yeah, I'll put it in chat. They're the British Association for Performing Arts Medicine. And they are a really nice sort of resource to send people. So if you've got an injury or any kind of illness or ailment, it's not just physical. It might be mental health related. Then you can see a specialist. You get a free referral. They've got clinics throughout the UK, and basically it's medical practitioners who will work very often pro bono or for reduced rates to provide specialist treatment to performers. So it's a handy thing to be aware of, particularly if you're a dancer, I think, because dancers are always getting hurt. You pretty much work hurt all the time. I think a lot in most cases. I think so. It's a nifty thing to know about. So yeah, I think, but do have a look at that PIPA research, because I think it's really enlightening, and it maybe raises some of the scale. It draws to like the scale of some of the challenges that's going to face the creative sector, I think, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's a really important time to stand up for parents and parenting. Just go in there with your baby, strap them on, take up the space, and just say we're here and we're carrying on. And it's perfectly possible. I'd also highly recommend a British Performing Arts Medicine Trust. Whenever you're anywhere. I remember being in rural Dorset with a bunch of learning disabled people from Brazil. One of them hurt his ankle, and it was only because I knew what BAPAM was and where it was that we found him somebody who got him back on stage the same night in a big Olympic performance. And that goes to that thing about just knowing where these networks are, knowing where this help is, so that when you're in trouble, you can reach for the right one quickly, or that you don't feel isolated when you've got an issue. And very often we all know each other, we all know each other, we all support each other.
And that's definitely something we can do here. We've had a few, these Mind the Gap sessions are sort of traditionally aimed at students who've graduated in the past couple of years or in their final year of their vocational training. But we've had quite a lot of new parents joining who are coming back to their careers, and so that is obviously a gap as well. And yeah, we could definitely invite some of those people in to come and talk and organise a session on that. So yeah, do let us know if that's something you're interested in. We could definitely do that. Thanks everyone. Does anybody else have another question? If not, I have a question. It has come up a couple of times, people, but all of you mentioning networking, but that's obviously a real problem at the moment for emerging artists, because networks that traditionally face-to-face haven't been able to meet. And we've been encouraging people to use these sessions for networking, but it is really difficult online. And I just wondered if all of you could have could mention what you're doing around networking and how people, I know that you have touched on things, but it'd be great to hear about that. Thank you. Who'd like to start? Fred? Great.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Networking in the new normal is awful. I used to joke frequently until I got sick of the sound of my own voice that I've shifted from zooming up and down the M1 to zooming at my desk. And unfortunately, as horrible as that pun is, it is very much the truth of the modern era. So as far as our networking things go, we've got a variety of different Facebook groups where we encourage open conversation. You can find these by just searching One Dance UK on Facebook, and they cater to the various different specialisms as well as broader membership. We're running regular sessions as well around health, being prepared to return to work. If you keep an eye out on the website in the news section, we advertise those regularly. Some of those are for members only, some of those are open to everyone. And we're also planning a series of digital breakout sessions whereby there's a bit of a theme, bit of a conversation that happens, and anyone who's happy to have their details shared afterwards can do so. So it's difficult because we're very, very keenly aware that everybody is kind of stuck in front of a computer a lot of the time. We don't necessarily want to add to the pressure to do so, but there's huge numbers of ways that you can kind of network. From my personal experience as a business development manager, one of the things that I would absolutely say is 100% worth doing is just keep in touch with the people that you graduated with. You know, even if, you know, you trained with someone and you thought they were an absolute plank, don't tell them. Just keep in touch, be friendly, be polite, make sure that you're up to date with what they're doing, because you never know where that next job's going to come from. And, you know, I'm a bit of a dark horse, I'll be brutally honest with you. I didn't actually train as a dancer. I trained as an actor, so there's some overlap, but it is a very different world. But one of the big overlaps is that most of the work that I got, certainly in the immediate kind of setup phase, shall we say, of my career, came through word of mouth from connections. So having a chat with people, doing that awful Zoom quiz with your course mates and maybe one or two of their friends in the industry, reaching out to people on social media as well. So Instagram is a huge thing at the minute for a lot of dancers because it provides a platform whereby you can still be seen, you can engage with people who might be interested in what you're doing. That can be a really nice way to start networking outside. And it's something that we're looking to support our members in doing as well. So again, that was a very long, complicated answer for it's online. But the hope is as well that towards the end of the year, or potentially being more realistic next year, we'll be able to start running our live sessions again. And when we run our conferences and regular sessions, there are always networking events tacked onto those. Ironically, we started the first of a series of new networking events in each city that didn't have any particular theme the day before the first lockdown started. So we'll be looking to revive those up, and those are just open sessions whereby members of the dance community in a given city can get together, they can meet each other, they can meet us as well. Those are open to anyone. They're not members only, although we do some members only networking sessions as well. And we've got a bit of a digital overhaul that's kind of in the works, whereby we're hoping to be able to facilitate much greater digital networking between our members, where having opted in, you'll be able to share your details amongst members who might be interested in working with a choreographer of a particular art form, or so on and so on and so on. Those things are a little way off yet though. So yeah, just keep an eye out basically.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. And I'll sort of add to that. I've always been I'm one of those weird people that actually likes networking. I've always looked about being, I've often found that actors and theatre people, they're kind of, because it's a talking profession, you just seem a lot more inclined to talk with each other. Dancers, I still dance together, and I find often as dancers we will talk more after we've danced together. So it might be about finding a space where with other dancers in that you can dance in first, and then you get in contact. But the word network to me, when I take it apart, then it means that it should catch you when you're falling. So I would start with the organisations that we're all in. They are networks, and if you simply hit the website, you will automatically begin to see, oh, here's something that's my that I can go towards. I can meet other people there. But then it should be something that works for you. So once you're there, who are you connecting with? Swap even just. I often think that we're only one email address or one mobile phone number or one Instagram follow away from what we need. So who's that one person you're connecting with? Throw your address in the chat and see what comes of it. I've had to do lots of networking since in my new work, particularly around disabled people and around global minority artists. And I know, yes, there's a lot of action on Instagram. So quite often I will just put in a key, see what comes up, and you'll find it to an organization, but then you start to see following that organization, and it's an absolutely legitimate way to spend time right at the moment, I think, of that, even if it's only 20 minutes a week, just doing a Google search and seeing where that leads you, seeing what networks that leads you into, joining Facebook groups, etc., etc. But you're looking for people you have things in common with, yes, so like your graduate friends, because the other lovely thing about graduate is because your careers all grow together. Many of the people who've employed me along the way are people actually when I was younger, because people diverge into different parts of the profession. So your dancer friend, you know, in a crew will get you some work, will get you venue. Very often it's we're at one remove from that person, so it's often a friend of a friend who gets us a job, simply a friend. So just keep talking about it. And then of course networks are where you get people who want to work for you. And there is nothing nicer than if you have an opportunity, you sharing that, because people often do that. Or underestimate your skills and value as your artist. You're a lot more internet savvy. Many of us who are older. Services could you offer someone in exchange for advice, for example? I'm doing that with a young graduate at the moment. She wants to start professional classes in the area, and we're swapping hour for hour, me supporting her to help her do her first bid, and her doing some database building for me. So it's awful, because I think everybody should be paid once they're graduated, but I think we're in a time where there isn't much money. And I graduated, you know, in my time out into a recession, swapping your skills, swapping the assets that you have for things that people a little bit further down the line who are networked with. And there's nothing like showing up and being a good worker. This young woman I'm working with, she just really impressed me on one meeting with her enthusiasm, her drive, her willingness to work. And I thought, you're someone I can connect with. And, you know, and so we started this hour by hour swapping. It doesn't always have to be official. So yeah, value yourself, value your time, but many things can be exchanged that aren't money, especially at the moment. Be wildly creative.
Thank you. Steve, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, we do run, we have a program of sort of online Zoom in sessions. I'll put a link in the chat for that in a second. We do try and keep in contact with members and various different committees within equity who represent the different sort of professional disciplines we cover, have undertake sort of proactive they try and organize online events and so forth. We also have branches as well. So if you're an equity member and you want to go along to a local branch, they meet every month, usually on Zoom, and they're actually been very popular during lockdown. In fact, more popular than before lockdown, because it's easier for people to just go to them. But we do Zooms in session, which is quite handy, because each week it's a Thursday, and I forget the time now, but basically there's a different subject every week, and we focus on different areas of the industry. So it's a handy thing to be sort of part of. I mean, I think joining a union is it is a networking activity in of itself, in a way. Again, it's about that collective self-interest and sort of connecting with all of those things. But being here today, I think, is a really valuable thing to do. If you could do more things like this, because I'm just looking at the chat, how many links there are, how much information is being shared. It's crazy. There's so much stuff out there that could be helpful to you. So it's good that you need to arm yourself with this. So I think participating in stuff like this is just fantastic. But yeah, I'll put that link in now. I do think with dance, it's like a lot of areas of the entertainment industry. It's a very opaque industry. It seems to be built around networks of who knows who. And that's the challenge to how you break into that, how you get into those streams of professionals. I think it just takes an awful lot of networking work, a lot of activity, a lot of you're the swan gliding across the pond, but your legs are kicking away furiously underneath. And I think that's sort of, you have to do an awful lot of that activity, unfortunately. So yeah, you have to, I think Louise's approach to networking is the right one, even though I think many of us do find it painful. But it does reap dividends in the longer run. But yeah, that's all I could really add to that. But I'll put in some links in the chat, Lou.
Great, thank you.
It gets easier as you go on, because if you meet one person who's got 10 contacts, then automatically you get 11 contacts. So If you're not a natural networker, keep an eye out for the people who are. Who's the person you can pick up the phone to and say, you know, can you tell me where? It's cumulative. You have to work hard at first, but show up in person, be professional, be personable. It really, really takes you a long way.
If I might add, my wife's she's an artist, and she has to do an awful lot of this networking stuff for self-employed artists. It's really hard at the moment, but she got a piece of advice a little while ago, and I think it might be good. It's to never make an ask of someone that you meet in a network until you've had 7 engagements with them. So 7 is the magic number. So you have to have 7 engagements, interactions, and then you make the ask, or then you make that sort of, you know, what. So it's interesting, but there is a magic number out there, and there are techniques to sort of developing this, and it's worth looking into, I think.
Yeah. Oh yes, I'll say a tip for like people who are wanting to assist. Find out about the artist you're approaching, you know, before. And it really struck me, Steve, when you said that dancers, we're the ones that will put up with everything. We'll put up with anything and we'll do anything kind of thing. Many of us need assistance or could do with assistantship or a PA. So, but probably would never ask. So to go and offer yourself to somebody as someone you'd be interested in shadowing their work or supporting their work, I bet you they would say yes. You know, and especially if you genuinely, you know, have things in common with them. But it's very hard to give somebody an opportunity when they just say, have you got any work? It's much easier, say for me, if somebody says, I've graduated from this university, I did my dissertation on this was my lecturer, he or she invited, you know, thought that I could speak to you. Do you have any shadowing opportunities coming up in, and please be specific about time with what you need, you know, but you can, there are tricks to creating opportunities for yourself.
Great, thank you. And I think it's a really, signing up for mailing lists is a really good way to start. It's obviously free, like Louise has put in. You can sign up to all of the mailing lists of all of the organisations who are here today, and the other ones that have been shared on the chat. So do that. We have come to the end, but if anyone, I don't want to stop it in case anyone had a final burning question. So I'll just put that out if anyone's got a final question. Great. Well, thank you so much. Oh, sorry.
I had one.
Yes.
It's just because I can't see everybody. Is there any feedback from the floor about, have there been any light bulb moments for anybody when you've got, aha, you know, oh, you know, kind of, what have you learned that's been new today? Maybe people want to put it in the chat. I'm interested in what people are taking home. Because all of this, it certainly was new to me when I was a graduate. It's like, whoa, you know, there is a lot of information and there's a lot of picking your way through it. But I think understand that in your new job as a dance artist, it's absolutely fine to take time to pick through that information. That is now just as much a part of your job as going to class, you know, if that's any help. People are being quiet.
I think it's been, I've learned a lot about people dancing, and I think it's been helpful for me. I was just going to say, I'm sorry I was late to the event. Oh, there's another question popped up in chat now, though.
Yeah, I think it's just Rebecca saying, says, thank you all, this was incredibly insightful. I think it would be amazing if this was spread in dance schools. In my time studying, this knowledge was just not there. Would be amazing to see how this information could be fed through earlier on in careers.
That's we're both working on that.
Yeah,
I think one young people dancing. I'm hearing that very much as someone involved in HE.
Yeah, I mean, we started the new graduate membership program for exactly this reason. We want to start having these conversations with what I call the emerging professionals, or the professionals of tomorrow who have finished training, because universities are kind of creating graduates, and not all, some provisions are fantastic, and you know, there's very little room for what we're offering, but in many cases, if the universities haven't thought about it, it's never historically been a part of the curriculum, or they just don't have the finance or the resources to put that kind of information into the students' hands. And for me, as you know, an artist who sold his soul to the black pit that is the corporate sector for a few years, these skills are essential, and having this awareness of who your sector support bodies are, the likes of People Dancing, One Dance UK, Equity, and others, things like PIPA, it's absolutely essential. So, you know, for us, it's very much a kind of a, well, certainly for me, it's a bit of a personal crusade to make sure that as many dance graduates as possible have been ranted at by me about how to formulate budgets, how to survive networking in the real world, how to create business plans around having a portfolio career and what skills go in there, and how you can port your performance skills across into non-performance roles to provide you with a stable income in the dry periods, because let's be honest, we all have them. So yeah, if ever anyone wants any support with that kind of stuff, yeah, just look up any of the organisations that have been talking to you today. That's literally what we're here to do.
If I could add,
yeah.
sorry, Louise.
I was just going to say, as the ones with an official student membership, that's exactly what we're doing, trying to change and trying to make everything that Fred said, beginning to embed that knowledge and that understanding. But when I started thinking about my career at age 40, in my view, you're really thinking about your end of first year, you're laying ground in the second year, and in the third year you're kind of one foot out in the industry, and that's what we're trying to create. And in this wonderful Zoom world, People Dancing will be working this summer to create online resources about some of those very general things, very likely working with partners like yourself, Fred and Steve, because it would be great to have a bank of knowledge that's out there. Like you say, wouldn't it be great if you could just click on a Zoom in a way that we haven't been in the past? And also, yeah, there's a wonderful resource where dancers tell their stories. I'll put it in the chat, but Steve, you answer. There's a good source of dancers telling their stories through adversity. I'll go find it.
Yeah, no, I was just going to, I mean, we certainly have, I personally think a lot of the courses, a lot of the dance courses, performing arts courses, they're fantastic at teaching you the skills to do the job, but they don't really prepare you for the industry, or how to be a self-employed business person, or how to drive your business, how to thrive within it. And I think there's a real shortfall there. I also feel that a lot of the bad things that manifest within the industry start at the training level as well. And I think that, and for a trade union, it's very difficult for us to engage with schools, because we're about employment, and when you're in employment, we do have the student membership scheme, but I think there is an awful lot of work. And if I had my way, the industry skills sort of part of the curriculum would be a substantial part of the training, you know, so you can understand about contracts, so you can understand about tax, you can understand about what your rights are as a worker and as an artist, and the value of your work as well, so you can learn about the value of the work that you create. Because only when you realize your own value are you able to really sort of negotiate and I think have a necessarily robust approach to sort of a career, because the work you do has value, and dancers are highly skilled and should be highly sought after and paid in accordance with that. And I think many of the arts are treated as sort of like you begin by not getting paid. And I think that's, there aren't other industries where that happens. And I think there's really interesting aspects of it. And I think there are qualities about arts that does set it aside and make it distinct. But these are all sort of challenges we have to work through. But yeah, I wish many of our members and professionals coming into the sector just had better preparedness through the courses that they did about what to expect when they graduate, because I feel like you're sometimes ill-served by these courses, and we have to sort of work to try and educate and support at the very beginning, when the worst things can happen. It's usually when you graduate, when you're most vulnerable, you know, and you don't really know how best to defend yourself. So yeah, I wanted to end on a positive note, but that's not really positive, but I'll leave that to someone else.
That's great.
Well,
thank you.
well, how about that? That just makes me want to keep in touch with you, Fred and Steve, about whatever it is people dancing are feeding in, because I always feel like it's a whole new language to learn. And if you emerge from university just quite relaxed about what these terms even mean, then you can begin. I had a sense of what equity was, and that there were organisations earlier on in my dance life, but I think that was because my parents were teachers, so it was, oh, look for that equivalent, and you know, I had a sense that those kind of things were important. But yes, it needs embedding much sooner. But okay, so it sounds like you guys have thrown down the baton to us. If we all pick it up and run with it, will that do for a positive ending?
Great, thank you all. Well, that's why Mind the Gap exists as well. This is our second year of doing Mind the Gap, and you can click on all of those resources and rewatch all of the Zooms. That's why it's recorded today. So there's a huge bank of knowledge. There's how to set yourself up as a company. There is how to do your tax. There's loads on how to write a budget. There's how to apply to the Arts Council. There's endless information out there. So if you click on the Mind the Gap page on the South East Dance website, you can rewatch any of these Zoom conversations. They're all there. We've got first aid coming up, we've got safeguarding coming up. What else have we got coming up, Pip?
We've got how to market yourself in dance, and we've got a session or things I wish I'd known from Lucy Bennett from Stopgap Dance.
Great. Yeah, the things I wish I'd known sessions have been really lovely, really great sessions. So as ever, they're free sessions, so please do sign up, come along and spread the word, share them out. Thank you very much for today, everyone. As ever, you can sign up for an artist advisory as well for Pip and I, which you can come and talk to us about anything you want to. I've shared the link to that in the chat. We will we'll send out that chat with all the links. You should be able to save it as well, but we will send it out to everybody who's here today, and we'll share Louise's PowerPoint that she had and the links. And if you've got any further questions that have come up after it, then please let us know. We can always help with that. We can direct those to Louise, Steve or Fred if they're the best people to answer them. So it's always a whirlwind. So you probably go away and think about it and then think, oh, I wish I'd asked this. So you can always send those through. Thank you so much to our speakers today. It was really lovely to have you, and it was really great, really, really informative session. So thanks everybody, and have a lovely day.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Good luck. Yeah, great to hear about the other organisations.
Definitely.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.